Oh, okay.
Looked at them and they said, well, did they get an approval? I said, well, they got a donation. And I said, well, but did they get a CFD approval?
Michael, it's Family
What's that?
Feud. Family Feud.
Well, they haven't put us on yet.
You do? Well, that's probably.
So how long
I was gonna say.
Is it on the website? Well, the question is it on the website?
No, I shouldn't take that long just for a consult.
There you go.
I didn't even know they had a doctor that does.
She doesn't really do much.
But they,
Our staff, or is she really?
We'll call our meeting to order. First item is roll call. June?
Councilmember Grossman.
I'm here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nye. Councilmember Mallory. Here. Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
Councilmember Marshall.
Here.
Mayor Skoog.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, now, if council would approve it, I'd like to make one change. Robert has a situation where he's got to get moving real quick, so I'd like to move number 5 up to number 3. Would that be okay? Sure. Robert, you're up. That's on the pool and ice services.
Good evening, and thank you guys for having me here tonight. Just wanted to stop by and give you some of our aquatics and ice skating seasonal highlights for the last season. Ice skating just wrapped up in January, and then also 3 years worth of aquatics numbers. We'll go ahead and start off with our ice skating. In the 2014 and 2015 ice skating season, we had kind of a unique year this year due to having a shortened season. Usually we start in October and go all the way through till March. This year, we went ahead and started in late November and ended in early January. During this season, we went ahead and had great participation. Everybody really loves that program. It is one of our best. With it, we went ahead and had 39 days open with 140 hours used. And with the current slide, the graph you can go ahead and see, we did have a lot less hours usable this year comparative to the previous 2 years. However, we were able to go ahead and utilize all of the best hours that were available during the season. During this season, and as you can see, comparative to previous years, we actually did a really great job. We hit about 78% of our participation comparative to the previous 2 years with 60% less time. So as you can tell, a lot of people in the community really love this, and we love being able to provide them the opportunity to enjoy the ice skating program. It's a lot of fun. All of my staff have a great time out there, and when I have the opportunity to get out there, I know I love to be there. Larry, I can't skate. I can skate partial of the time. If you guys don't have any questions on ice, I can go ahead and go into aquatics, or if you have anything on ice, I can definitely go ahead and answer those now.
Questions, anyone?
Okay, well, then we'll go ahead and jump right into aquatics. Aquatics, we have a great time at as well. We see a lot of great participation, and we go ahead and offer a lot of great programs for the citizens of Prescott Valley. And I can tell you guys that I have a really great time in the summer and being able to provide this thing to the community. With the last 3 seasons, as you can see from this graph, we have very comparative numbers season to season. We'll see some of our programs will go ahead and increase in the participation rates, and in others we'll go ahead and see a little decline, but every year it's hand over hand a great season. As you can see in 2014, we had 12,000 patrons in our open swim program alone. This graph shows you exactly what we had. It's kind of disproportionate considering that in 2014 we only had 800 additional people, but it's just a great program, and being able to provide that to the community in the summer when it's hot is always a great time. Here you can see some of our other 6 programs that we always have great participation in as well, which is our therapy swim, family night, 50-plus aqua aerobics, adult aerobics, lap swim, and of course the always important swimming lessons. That's one that we're really big on, and we have a lot of great instructors every single year. A lot of parents really enjoy that program, and we love being able to provide that safety aspect for the kids in the community to make sure that everybody has a safe and fun summer. To go ahead and wrap things up, our 2015 season, May 16th will be our first session of swimming lessons sign-ups, and that'll take place at the Mountain Valley Splash Pool. Also on that day will be our Battle of the Bands, so come sign up for swimming lessons and then stay for the Battle of the Bands, another great time. 2015 season will begin May 23rd. We'll have open swim from 1 to 4:30. And then aquatics and office positions are available, so you can get your application in online. And open interviews will take place April 3rd and 4th at the pool as well. Other than that, really excited for this season coming up, and we had a great time with ice skating this past season, so looking forward to that comeback as well. And if you guys have any questions, I will.
Any questions, anyone? Laura?
Is the water slide all refurbished?
We are actually starting that tomorrow. We got the company coming in from Denver. It is going to look awesome. I am really excited for that.
Other questions, comments? Robert, we appreciate that. Good presentation.
Thank you,
Keep
sir.
up the good work.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, we'll move on into the next one, presentation, Prescott Valley Event Center. Mr. Spiker.
Well, how's everybody doing? Alive and well. Good to see you. And thanks for what you all do. I'm sure every day isn't a thankful day, so I appreciate what you guys all do and all the hard work you put in. So I should probably say that when I start sitting on a few boards once in a while, it's nice what goes on. Anyway. Boy, what a year, and we're going to be talking about, the AIA. They asked me to talk a little bit about what's going on. I've had conversations this week and last week. It looks like the AIA will be back for next year, and, it's always something we worry about with town because so much goes on once they're here. Between wrestling and basketball, we really fill the place. And this year, besides doing the volleyball, we're also doing robotics. We're going to have a big robotics championship coming up. Let's see, what's the date of that? I should have that on my mind. Robotics, where'd it go? Yeah, May 23rd. So all the high schools will do their championship robotics stuff at the school. It's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, they come up with some neat things. So if you got a chance and you're around May 23rd, come on up and take that up. But I know for town, the stuff, I hear so much positive during the AIA because people are here from all over the state and they like coming here. They ask us about restaurants. I hear about every place in town and where they're going shopping and where can we do this. And I know there's a local grocery store close by that they go into quite a bit. But anyway, down to they tow away cars in our parking lot. So every business gets used. So, it's like they have flat tires, they're going over and copying things. I don't know of many stores that probably don't get a little bit of advantage from the AIA being in town. Let me go over wrestling. We had 900 wrestlers come in. So, and the wrestlers fill the place. If you come in there's a few seats on the ends, but on the sides it's totally full. And of course they buy every suite also. So it's a fun time if you get up there. And so if a kid loses, usually there's some kid on the team winning. So the whole folks stay for the whole thing. We did 3 days this year instead of 4 days. But we had about 5,500 people pay to go in. That's not all the free people in that belong, all the coaches and other people that do that. And it was a couple hundred more than last year, which was 4 days. So the AIA is happy because they also, they had one less day of costs. We had one less day of costs. They took in a little more money, and so they're pretty happy. Also this year, they did not pay, they pay me labor when they do that. So they didn't pay to cover the ice and uncover the ice. So they were kind of happy with their labor charges being down a little bit on how that works. So they're quite happy, and I want to keep them happy, so they're here every year. Basketball goes on for 5 days, and we did. There'd be 36 teams. There's 16 boys teams and 16 girls teams. They also do 8 bye games, and those are at the local schools. They play, the day or so before they come into the arena. They're at Prescott and at Bradshaw. So folks are in town quite a while for these championships. Probably the biggest day we had was the second day. It also depends, what schools play in what school. And some schools bring more people for the competition. Of course, when I get schools from up north, they seem to bring a lot of people in. So we appreciate the participation when they come down. So that works out pretty well. A plus to being here that we try to sell to the schools. Of course, I did a little work in the schools, but we're in the center of the state. Buses can drive about 4 hours and they need to take a break. The bus driver does. Well, it's 4 hours to Red Mesa. It's 4 hours to Yuma. It's 4 hours to Tombstone. So we're right here because, they do get a lot of pressure, the AIA, to go to Phoenix. But what do all the northern schools do? They got to stop, take a couple-hour break. What do you do with the kids during that time? And it costs them a lot more money. And they've even put a map together. The AIA has put a map together, and they sent it around to all the schools, showing the schools that were participating, and they were from all over the state. And, of course, we were right in the middle of all that. So the schools were quite happy. We didn't get, I don't get complaints from that. Once in a while the AIA will get a complaint that, how come we're not in Phoenix? Also, they talk to us about how safe we are. You can walk here downtown. You can walk somewhere. Right? You also can leave your car and not worry about it being broken into. So, and I hear those kind of comments from folks that come up here from neighboring communities. So we all have a good reputation. You guys should be proud of what you've done because the town does have an excellent reputation, for coming here and staying here. Volleyball always goes good. We do cheerleading and volleyball, so we do all the sports, and of course we do all the wrestling. We don't do all the basketball. We just do one part of it. But again, we brought a little over 6,000 paid people in for basketball. So again, we did a little better than last year on the number of paid folks. We had, I think the final day of basketball, I had. It was real close to 500 senior tickets sold. So people in town are taking advantage of coming in. I always, of course, see Cal Cordes and some, there's folks that come around here that come every year to watch the basketball. And of course, Grandma and Grandpas come with their kids and things like that, so it works out pretty well. We do a military discount. On the final day, I had over just 300 military folks come in. They like to come in and watch the basketball because we keep track of all that. But anyway, that's a little bit about the AIA. Upcoming events, we're doing fine. Any questions on the AIA?
Questions, anyone? Mary?
No, go ahead. I just had a comment. We ran into some of the wrestlers, Kirk and I did. We went over to Freedom Station. We went miniature golfing one evening. And there was a team over there, and they were from Havasu. And they were very nice kids. They were funny. They were just cracking us up. So it's an opportunity for a lot of us as we're in the community through that time they're here to actually meet up and talk with them. And Kirk and I did, and it was really pleasant. Very nice young people.
And it is. I agree with that. It's fun. It's fun down there visiting with all the folks, before and after the matches and things. And they're appreciative of the town.
Yeah.
Good. Steve?
So what were the numbers on the volleyball?
The numbers on the volleyball were, and I don't, this is crazy. I don't think I brought that one. Is that good? I said I would. Where did I put that? I bet I didn't. We were up on volleyball. but I don't have that specific number. Paid people, it wasn't quite 3,000. Okay, it was like 28. I mean, I don't have it exactly, but I know when I was looking at it, and we get like 6,000 for basketball, 5,500 for wrestling, and usually 25. And the year before we only had 22, but this year was pushing 28. So we were happy. I didn't have the exact one, and I should have. Ivan, you're looking better. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Other questions?
And events coming up, of course, weird rumors go around town with everything, but yeah, we're not closed. We're doing good. We're hanging in there. I have the 4th of July weekend open. That's about it. Otherwise, we have events going on. And we try not to do too much over the 4th. We've done some events before, but with the rodeo going on in Prescott, it's tough to do things. One of the best things we've done over the 4th out of the last 4 years that I've been here was we had a garage sale. And people attended the garage sale. But when we do events, they want to be in town and they want to be going to those dances at night. And if somebody wants to come up with something, we will. We do have it available. We do some weddings up there. We do some quinceañeras. And if one of those were to pop up that they would like that date, we would do that. I actually have a large quinceañera coming up on June 13th. We can hold 600-800 people or 1,000 people, and if you go to some of the local places, they can hold 200-300 or maybe 400, but they can't hold 600 or 800 people, and we can't. We're doing a large, for a title company in town. In July, we're doing for the whole state. We're having a big dinner for them. So all the state folks will be up here for that dinner. So that's working good. Of course, this week, not this weekend, next weekend, we have the Rocky Mountain Wrestling. And that's a national tournament where, again, people come from all around the state. So you're going to see the country. They're here from California, Albuquerque to Las Vegas. So there will be folks here from everywhere next weekend. And again, it's full for wrestling. So that goes quite well. Right after that, we have the Salute the Heroes, and our Salute the Heroes gets, and you're probably hearing about it, it's going to be a big deal. And the night before it, we're doing a little comedy club on Friday night, and they're going to all be soldiers. So they're comedy guys that travel around that are soldiers that go from base to base, so that should be kind of interesting for the comedy club. And of course, then we'll move right into the monster truck and some BMX stuff inside. So it's going to... If you come, bring earplugs, for Saturday night. So, but of course, there's, we have a lot of stuff going on in town and outside. We float into a gun show, and then we're doing a stand-up for veterans too. At the end, get right into a spring carnival, and from that we flow into some graduations in May. We do Embry-Riddle's graduation, so we have that, and we do Chino's graduation at our place, Bradshaw's graduation, and then we get into that AIA event. We have a home and garden show in the middle of May too, and that's always big. And of course, all the local businesses from the whole area are here for that. Moving into June, June's full. We're going to do another one of those cage fighting. We did an MMA, Rage in the Cage, we call it, and it went pretty good. The last one we had, and we had a local boy fighting some other kids, and it brought a lot of local folks. So we're doing that again, and that should be good. And right after that's Prescott Valley Days. So hang on, that's right there at about June 18th. So the end of the month in June, for the past few years, we've done the Elevate concert, the Christian concert. So that I am already at about 2,500 tickets sold for that. So, that's a large event, and again, it brings a lot of folks to town. So the Elevate concert is, always goes good, and we're looking forward to keeping that. And, to wrap up the month, there's a Gem and Mineral show, and we're working on, and it will be on August the 15th, we're doing one of those Comic-Cons, where it's that comic book stuff. So anyway, that's, they do those in Phoenix a lot, but we got one up here. So we're working on August, September. There's a lot of events going on, but we're full. And I had somebody call today wanting to do something, and I said, well, I might have July 13th. I'm not sure, so weekends are pretty full. Would there be any questions?
Questions, anyone? Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm you're working with Rotary in terms of the Balloon Fest in September?
Yeah, you know, and that's mostly outside. We work with them
Right.
every year, but yes, that's all set.
Great.
And actually, I was talking, we have a meeting on Tuesdays, and that all came up, and I guess everything's going pretty good for that.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
Yep.
Others, anyone?
Yeah, just for the benefit of the people watching at home, all these dates and activities are on the website for the
Yes.
event center?
Yep, www. Prescott Valley Event Center. So if you look up PVEC or Prescott Valley Event Center, you'll find all the things that we're talking about on there. We did move a couple things around today to make sure. Actually, the Rage in the Cage, they had a little problem with the Boxing Commission, so I called, actually I had to call 2 other people to change dates. It took 3 people to make some changes to make it work, but because we didn't want to lose that in the community anyway, and a gun show said they could move. I wasn't sure if they could because they have gun shows all around the state and they didn't want to conflict. And another event in Bennett Hall was taken care of, so there will be a few changes as of tomorrow in our calendar.
Other questions, anyone?
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
That's it. Well, thank you, Steve. Gary, I say good
Steve's
job.
good. I was called worse today.
There's 2 Steves here, so sorry about that. Okay, next one. Discussion, water and wastewater capacity fee. Neil?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here tonight to talk to you about a water and wastewater capacity fee study. And this presentation is actually going to be in 2 parts. Tonight, John Wright from Raftellus Financial Consultants is with us, and he's going to present the actual study that was done to you. And then after that, I'm going to do a presentation on what that means and kind of how we as staff would like to implement that. So with that, I would invite John Wright to come up here and he can talk about this.
Good. Welcome, John.
Council, it's wonderful to be back here at Prescott Valley.
You'll have to use the microphone for us.
Wonderful to be back here at Prescott Valley. The last time I was here was for your development impact fees. That might not be a pleasant memory, but I really enjoyed working with Ryan Judy and Kim Moon. And now I've had a great chance to work with Neil on your water and wastewater capacity fees. My presentation, I know this is hard to believe, might be a little bit dry tonight because the subject matter is not that scintillating. But I think what Neil wanted me to do was just kind of lay out for you in a very brief overview type fashion the process that we use to come up with the water and wastewater capacity fees that Neil's proposing for you to consider tonight. So I'll try to get through it in good time. And then when I'm done, Neil will follow up with adding some meat on the bones about how it might impact different types of land uses. So when we think about water and wastewater capacity fees, I think as you know, they are one-time charges that are paid by new customers connecting to your water and wastewater system. And they are designed to recover the cost of capacity-related infrastructure. That might be well capacity, treatment capacity, backbone pumping and transmission. And like any impact fee, the basic equation is costs divided by units of capacity equals the fee. So when we think about these fees in the water and wastewater industry, there are 3 sort of industry standard calculation approaches. And those approaches are basically discussed by the American Water Works Association on the water side and the Water Environment Federation on the wastewater side. This sort of industry standard methods for calculating water and wastewater capacity fees that rate consultants like myself try to follow. And very simply, the first approach would be what's called an equity buy-in approach, which is a situation where you've got a utility that has adequate existing capacity to meet long-term demand. And what a new customer connecting to the system really needs to do when you're in that situation is sort of make an equity contribution equivalent to what the utility's existing customers have made. And so the fee sort of puts them on an equal basis with existing customers in terms of the equity they've placed in the system. A second approach is called the incremental approach, which is used usually when utilities are in sort of a short-term capacity shortfall situation. They really need to expand their capacity-related assets to meet new demand. And in that case, what a customer would do is they would basically pay for their portion of the incremental cost of new capacity. And then there's a third method I won't go into in any detail, which is hybrid method, which is kind of a combination of both approaches. The reason I want to go through these with you is only to let you know that the fees that Neil and I are presenting to you tonight have been calculated using these industry standard approaches, and so they're completely normative in terms of how they were done. Now this presentation has both water and wastewater calculations. I think just for brevity, I'm only going to walk you through the water calculation because I know it's not that scintillating of a subject. But step one for us on the water side is to really understand where we're at in terms of our available capacity to meet growth. In the case of Prescott Valley, you need to add 2,500 gallon per minute of new well capacity to serve growth over the next 10 years. And based on the way your customers use water, that 2,500 GPM of well capacity can serve approximately 6,800 new single-family dwelling units. And it's important to sort of denominate the level of single-family dwelling units that we can serve with that capacity, because that forms the basis of how we do all of our fee calculations. The next thing we would do is we look at the CIP expenditures that need to be paid for by capacity fees. In this case, when we do a 10-year forecast of your CIP expenditures on the water side, we've identified about $10.1 million worth of expenditures that are growth-related that need to be paid by fees, or capacity fees. And so the next step, and sort of the fundamental part of calculating your fees, is to ask ourselves how much that a single-family residential customer should pay. And it's really just a simple equation of $10.1 million of CIP divided by roughly 6,800 single-family equivalents, and that gives us a fee of $1,491. I promise I'm almost done. Then the third step in the water process is to ask ourselves the question, well, if a single-family residential customer would pay $1,491, how much would multifamily properties pay? And, here in Prescott Valley, we track multifamily properties based on whether they're duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, apartments and condominiums, or motel and hotel rooms. And we know based on historical water consumption patterns how much those types of multifamily dwelling units use in terms of water consumption compared to single family. And so we would calculate their fees based on that relationship between their demand and single-family residential demand. And then lastly, in the water capacity fee calculation process, and this is the big change I think that Neil's proposing to you tonight, is that what we've done is we've proposed fees for you that are based on meter flow rate equivalencies. And right now the way your commercial, or I guess I should say non-residential fees are calculated is based on fixture units. So every time a developer comes to your utilities department and wants to buy a connection, you have to go through a very complex process of calculating the number of fixture units and then multiplying that times a dollar amount per fixture unit. I think what Neil's proposing is switching to a much simpler and much more industry standard approach, which is to base your non-residential capacity fees on meter size. And we've calculated the flow rate equivalencies for various meter sizes, and the resulting capacity fees fall out. I'm not going to go through wastewater because it's much like I've been through for water. So what I'm going to do is skip to my last slide here. And what I wanted to show you was what's going on in some other Arizona communities in terms of the way they calculate water and wastewater capacity fees and how those fees are assessed. And what you can see is that there are a lot of communities that do use a meter size basis, which is what Neil's proposing tonight for commercial fees. And so it's quite normative and a very much of an industry standard approach. I think that concludes my presentation, unless you have any questions now or after Neil.
Marty?
Yeah, just a simple fact again for the viewing public so they know what we're basing things on. When you say a single-family unit, how large a family are you talking about? Is it 2 children, 3 children, 3.5 children? What's the what's the family size that you're talking about?
You know, I feel embarrassed I can't remember the exact value, but it's approximately 2.53. That's very good. 2.53 people per household. And that's the same metric that we used in calculating your development impact fees last year. And so what we're doing in these water and wastewater capacity fees is really understanding how much their water consumption is and their sewer discharges so we can get the right number of units to divide into costs and come up with the fees.
Good. Other questions? Mary? No?
No, thank you.
Steve, no questions? Well, thank you, John. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Neil, you're up.
Thanks, John.
We don't have to pay as much. I want to make sure.
Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is taking the information that John presented and the fees that they came up with, and I'm going to give you an overall summary of what those fees are going to look like here in a second as well. Talk about how we would like to implement those as we move forward. And so with the study, though, we had a couple different goals. One of them was obviously to review our fees, and then we wanted to eliminate the dual fee structure that we have. As you may recall, we used to have 2 water systems. We had the Prescott Valley Water District and the Prescott Valley Municipal Water System that was north of 89A. Well, when we had those 2 systems, we used to have different rates for both of those in terms of what the customer paid on a monthly basis was different in those 2 areas. As well, the capacity and resource fees that they paid was different. Well, when we combined the 2 systems over the first couple of years that we had the systems combined, we actually eliminated the dual rates on the customer user fees so that everybody monthly is paying the exact same fees now. And it took us 2 or 3 years to merge those, to blend them together. But we never changed the capacity and resource fees. So north of 89A, they've always been paying one set of fees when you come to get their building permit for their house. South of 89A, it's always been different. So we're eliminating that so everybody pays the same. And then we wanted to evaluate an alternative method of assessing the fees. As John mentioned, I would like to have us look at going to meter size as the basis, and I'll get into a little bit more about that. So the assumptions were for developing the study was to use the water and wastewater master plan documents that we had developed a number of years ago. And one of the things that we wanted to do was, number one, we wanted that all the wells moving forward, that we would actually, as the town, would install those. So the capacity fees needed to cover the costs that we would be putting out to put the wells in the ground. And the primary driver behind this was when we were looking at the Quailwood development, and that one came to the table, and they started drilling wells that they were required to drill to meet the capacity for their residents. That was on them to drill those wells and to provide those over, basically give them to the town when they were done. That area of town was not a good area for water development. And so for the 1,000 homes that they've got down there, they actually provided us with 4 wells. And they still did not meet their total capacity requirement. The wells that they were developing were 75 gallons a minute, 100 gallons a minute, somewhere in that range. We've got wells, our biggest well, as you may know, is 2,500 gallons a minute, and most of our normal wells are 500 or 600 gallons a minute. So they provide us with 4 wells. In addition, they paid us some additional money so that we could go drill another well somewhere else because it just wasn't working down there. So what this would do would essentially, we would now just be collecting the money as they pull their permits for individual homes. They pay their fees. Those fees would cover the cost of us going out and drilling the wells. So we can drill them anywhere we want in town to cover wherever we need it, the capacity. And so that's what the Quailwood Meadow scenario is that we're trying to avoid here going forward. Installation of water tanks would still be the responsibility of the developer, with the exception of one additional tank that is still on our books to install, and that was covered by the capacity fees. So that's what we were looking at as we developed these fees. So overall, here are the basic results. Our existing fees for water capacity, as I mentioned, we had two. We had $1,570 was for north of 89A, and $1,311 was for south of 89A, just for the water fees. And then wastewater was the same on both at $3,162. And so the totals you can see down there at the bottom, somewhere between $4,400 and $4,700 for the combined water and wastewater fees. The proposed fees that we're moving to, we'll just have the one fee for water at $1,491, for wastewater $3,014, combined at $4,505. And so what happens is that north of 89A, their fees are going to go down a total of $227 per home that they build. Okay. South of 89A, their fees are going to go up a combined amount of $32. So it's really not that big a deal compared to the overall amount of the $4,500 fee. And so this will make everybody on the same playing field, and the fees really don't change overall. I don't know if you've got any questions on the results right now or anything. If you do, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll move forward into kind of the next part of the presentation.
Questions, anyone?
No.
Yes, ready to go forward.
Okay. All right. So first I'm going to talk about the current method by which we assess these capacity and resource fees. And we do it by a number of different methods. With residential, it's a fixed fee. Any house that comes in, they pay whatever the flat fee is. It was about, like for wastewater, it was $31.62. Doesn't matter the size of the home, mobile home, 5-story or five bedroom, doesn't matter. Everybody paid the same fee. That amount was fixed. For multifamily, it was a percentage of the fixed rate. I'll show you some examples of that, what that means in a minute here. For commercial, we based it on fixture unit count. Fixture unit is, so what they would do is go in and they would look at how many sinks are in the commercial establishment. A sink might have a fixture unit count equivalent of 2. So you'd have to say, okay, a sink is 2, a toilet is 6. You add up all those numbers times how many of those they have, and you come up with this fixture unit count. And that's how we did that. And then for undefined type developments, we used meter size. And an undefined might be a nursery. They don't have fixture units for a nursery. They say, we just need to water all these trees out here. So we would give them a 2-inch water meter or whatever size water the meter they wanted, and the fees would be based on the size of that meter. And that's basically what I'm proposing to go to with everything else, is whatever that size of meter is, that's what the fee will be based on. So here's the example of the current fees. We already talked about single family being a flat or a fixed fee, and those are the numbers that you see up there. Duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes would be assessed at 85% of the residential fee. So if you had a triplex, it would be 3 units times 85% of the fee for a single family residential. Okay, and so that's the amounts are calculated out there for you. For an apartment condominium, it was 80% of whatever the single family residential was times the number of units. And then with a hotel, it's 50%. So with 100 rooms in the motel, take 100, multiply it by 50%, multiply it by the single family fee, and that's what they paid. Again, commercial is on fixture units, and I'll show you a little bit more on that. And then the undefined for the meter size. So different methods for depending on what type of a project came through the door at the building counter. I wanted to show you basically what an example of a fixture unit table was. So this is what happens when a large project comes in. Somebody has to count up all of the showers, all of the sinks, all of the floor drains, all of the bathtubs, multiplying by the equivalent fixture units on this table to come up with a total fixture unit count for the whole building, and then multiply those by a rate that we had set as a per fixture unit rate. And if I go back to the previous slide, for wastewater, we would charge them $126.48 for every single fixture unit number we came up with. And then we would charge them $52.44 for the water side for every fixture unit and $61.04 for the water resources fee. One of the other things that we took a look at was, so like with apartments and hotels, where we're charging them 50% of the single-family residential fee, or for apartments where we're charging them 80%, what are they really using in terms of water? Because our fees are supposed to cover what we're going to need in terms of capacity in our system. So we went back and looked at a number of years worth of data for a couple different hotels and a couple of different apartments. And based on, so looking at hotel number one there, they have 118 units in their hotel. Looking at their monthly water usage in thousands of gallons, that's what's next to that. And so we came up with usage per unit in gallons per month, and that was right around 1,600 gallons per hotel unit per month. If you compare that to the next column, which is a single-family residential using an average of 6,500 gallons per month, that hotel is only using 25% of what a single-family residential uses. Okay, and if you look down that list there, starting in the yellow columns, you'll see the three hotels are all pretty close to 25% of what a single-family residential uses. And the apartments are at 30 to 40% of what a single-family residential would use. What are we charging them? The hotels, we're charging them at 50%, and the apartments, we're charging them at 80% of a single-family residence. So there's a little bit of disparity there between what we're charging them and what they're the actual demand that they're putting on our system. So this summarizes what, for these different projects, what fees they paid, and this is only for water and wastewater, versus what they would pay under the proposed methodology that we're looking at going to, which is the meter-based approach. And you can see that the meter-based approach for these particular projects is going to be maybe half as much they would have to pay in charges to us based on what, compared to what they actually did pay to us. Okay, so that's basically in line with what I just showed you with their actual consumption. We also looked at some other commercial type projects that were not residential, and providing here for you, the middle column shows you what they actually paid in terms of water and wastewater capacity fees. The next to the last column shows you what they would pay under this new approach. And then I've got some comments in the last column that explain some of the disparities that we're seeing in there. So, for example, a convenience store, the top one, they paid $15,000. Under the new approach, they would have paid $36,000. However, the only reason for that is because they installed a 2-inch water meter, which they don't need, because they only have 84 fixture units. And if you're looking at the equivalents, they could have gotten away with a 1 to a 1.5 inch water meter. So they would have actually paid closer to, and the numbers I've got on the right-hand side there, somewhere between $11,000 or $22,000 if they had gone with a smaller meter. But essentially they said we want a 2-inch meter, and they didn't really need it. The fast food one is a similar situation. They asked for a 2-inch meter for a fast food restaurant. They don't need a 2-inch meter. They could have easily gotten by with a 1-inch meter, and their fees would have been $15,700, which is a lot closer to the $14,000 they paid under the current way that we do business. Looking down at the large retail, they paid $133,000. Under the new methodology, they would have really only paid $72,000 based on the two 2-inch meters that they installed. With that one, there seems to be an anomaly somewhere with the fixture unit count, because 2-inch meters can handle the equivalent of about 400 fixture units. This large retail has, according to the calculations that were submitted, 744 fixture units. So if that was the case, and they only have 2-inch meters, and they really needed that big of a demand, those 2-inch meters would not keep up with it. So there's an anomaly there. And by going to something more standard like a meter size based system, it would take some of the ambiguousness out of it, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but it leaves some ability for people to have differences of opinion as to what that fixture unit count might be. So what I'm proposing is going to a methodology based on meter size. It's more efficient, and for example, in talking with Greg Pfister, he gets calls all the time from the development community, people wanting to establish a business here, move to this area, and they ask him what the fees are, and they want to know for my business, how much am I going to have to pay in capacity fees and so forth. And he says, I don't know, what's your fixture unit count? And they go, well, we don't know. But if he can say, well, you know, what size of a meter do you need? A lot of these places already know approximately what size meter they need, or if they've got these things in other locations, they know what size meters they install in their buildings. It's real easy. We're installing a 2-inch meter. Okay, your fees are going to be this. Like I mentioned a little bit on confusion or differences between the interpretation of the plans and how you count fixture units. We don't have to worry about that anymore. And then one other area which we've started to run into a little bit is based on water savings fixtures and those compared to standard devices. So we've had, for instance, Bradshaw Mountain High School a number of years ago put in some bathrooms, and they've actually gone to no flush urinals. Okay? Well, no flush urinals mean there's no demand on our sewer system for those things, or very little demand. However, if we go back and we look at the table for fixture unit counts, we have to charge them one fixture unit for each and every urinal that's in there. And then same for water saving faucets and toilets and other things. You know, so we'd have to come up with a table that identifies those, and the table just gets longer and longer. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. If they tell us they don't need a meter, or they think they can get by with a much smaller meter because they're not supplying water to the urinals, we just ask them, how big a meter do you want? And we'll charge you for that. Plus, the meter size is directly proportional to the maximum possible water usage that they can get through it. So. This graph just shows essentially the difference between a fixture unit method and a meter size method. The fixture unit method is represented by the straight blue line going diagonally up the screen. So however many fixture units we come up with, the count shows you on this graph about how much money you would pay. The difference being that with a meter sized based approach, it would be more stair step. So in other words, as long as, if they ask for a 1-inch meter, then they pay for the full amount of that 1-inch meter, whether they need exactly 1-inch meter, or maybe they could have gotten by with something a little bit smaller that we don't have. So we charge them the full amount for the 1-inch meter. The nice thing about that is, though, if they ever come back in to expand, we don't have to ask them for a new fixture unit count. We say, do you need a bigger meter? They say no. We say, okay, there's no capacity and resource fees. We only charge them if they need a bigger meter. So when do we assess these fees? Basically, new construction. We put in a new meter, we're assessing them for that. Anytime they do a tenant improvement or a renovation, we don't charge them unless they need a larger meter. If the meter that's on their business is adequate and, they're adding one toilet, but they don't think they need a new meter or bigger meter, we don't charge them anything else. They're good as long as they don't increase. Right now, under the fixture unit count, we would say, okay, you're putting in one toilet, one lavatory, and one urinal, so that's a fixture unit count of whatever the number is, 9, 10, 11, and we would charge them the appropriate fee based on that. In addition, because they already have an existing meter, or somebody's coming in that does have an existing meter, we would charge them the difference between the fees that we charge for the size of meter they currently have versus what size they want to upsize to. So if they want to go from a 1 inch to a 1.5, we're not going to charge them the full amount of a 1.5 meter because they're already using 1 inch worth of water, right? So we just charge them the difference. We're also proposing to apply this to not only the water capacity and the wastewater capacity fee, but also to the water resource fee, to put all three of those on the same calculation method. But we didn't analyze the water resource fee, so we're not proposing a change to what the actual fee is. The other fee that we have in utilities is the in lieu of sewer assessment, which is the sewer assessment that paid for the original sewer that was installed in town. So back in 1993, the sewer system was put in, and there were some lots, and a lot of them here in Section 14, large open areas of land. And so they were assessed at that time something like the equivalent of one single-family residential assessment for a large property, because nobody knew what it was going to develop into. When that property develops today, we're going to be charging them additional fees that were associated with what they owe us for the original collection system, because they're putting in more than the one single-family resident that they paid for. So that one we actually can't touch. That one has to stay as a fixture unit count methodology for some of the areas that are still in the original collection system. And that's because of historically how it was developed and the accounting that's been moving forward with that. We can't just change that one. So for meter-based fees, this is an example for wastewater. A 5/8 inch meter is equivalent to 25 fixture units. And that 25 fixture units is the basis for the fee for a single-family residential today. That's what we charge them. You can see the $31.62 for the existing fee. That's what we charge to all single-family residential. It's based on 25 fixture units. And it's based on, and that's equivalent to a 5/8 inch meter. When somebody comes in to put in a nursery, as I said, and they want a 1 inch meter, today we charge them the 1 inch meter price, which is equivalent to 63 fixture units, $7,968. That's what we charge them today based on a 1 inch meter. Okay. So all we're doing is proposing now to make everybody pay the meter-based fees, and you can see what the existing fees are and what those proposed fees will be. So they're not going up on wastewater. They're actually going down a bit. The water side, they're going up a little bit, right? And I'll have that summarized near the end to refresh your memory on that. Okay, so these are the combined water and wastewater fees. Again, those are the only two I'm looking at right here. Shows you the existing fee for a 5/8 inch meter basically for all of the meters, what we would charge, what the proposed fee is, and over on the other side you see what the difference is there. So single family residential, they'll pay $32 more than they do right now. The other thing is that for single family residential, everybody right now pays exactly the same. So somebody that comes in with a mobile home with 2 bedrooms and they're on a small lot and they say it's just 2 people, we're charging them this $44.73 number. Somebody comes in and they want to put in a 6-bedroom, 4-bath, we're charging them the same fee. We're not charging them more. I would propose that we charge them based on meter size. If they can do it with a 5/8 inch meter, we'll charge them the $4,500. If somebody comes in with a larger home and they say, look, I've got all these bathrooms, I want a 3/4 inch meter because that's what my architect says I need, or I want a 1 inch meter, we're going to charge them more for it. So, in summary, the proposed fees that we're going to right now are $32 higher per single-family home. Right? That's just per single-family home. When you start looking at commercial and the bigger meters, that number obviously goes up. But on the single-family equivalent basis, it's $32 a home higher. The proposed structure will eliminate the differential fees between what was the Prescott Valley Municipal Water System and the Prescott Valley Water District. We're proposing to go to meter size based fees, and we would like to apply those to water capacity, wastewater capacity, and water resource fee. That was a lot of information. That's why we're doing it. This is a work study. We actually have not scheduled to bring this back to you yet. But if you would like for us to move forward, I think there are some things that we will be doing here, next steps, I guess. We would have to essentially file the report that Raftellus did with the town clerk's office, and then we'll be coming back to you to adopt the fees, go to a public hearing. We'll have to change some of our utility regulations and such, and adopt the ordinances. So those would be future steps. But I guess at this point in time, I answer any questions that you might have either on...
Mary, you got a question?
How this might work, or...
Yeah, I got a question.
Marty? Okay.
If let's say a commercial property changes hands, it's been sitting vacant, does the new commercial owner get charged do they get assessed the fee?
No.
Or because it's already existing?
That's correct.
What would happen if they wanted to change the water meter?
If they're changing a water meter because it's the one they've got is no longer good and they're using the same size, then there would be no fee. We're only charging for additional water usage. So if they come back and say, well, we're changing the usage of the building, so now we're going to put in an indoor nursery, and instead of having a 1 inch meter here, we need a 4 inch meter, then we would charge them the difference in cost between a 1 inch meter that they already have versus the 4 inch meter that they're requesting. If they don't ever need more water than the size of the meter they've got will provide, there will be no charges.
And would that also apply to a residential?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mary, you must have a question. I hear you say something.
I'm saying a lot of things. This is a lot of work. You've done a great job on this. I definitely have to read up on my homework here, but I get the whole idea. It's all about the meter, how it's gonna go, what size meter they go to their house is basically what we're looking at here. All about the meter size.
Yes, yes. And currently, pretty much every single residential property in town has the smallest meter, the 5/8 inch meter. There may be one or two that have, some bigger meters. Couldn't tell you how many there are of those,
okay.
And then one of the other things that we're proposing on doing is adding. We don't actually have a 3/4 inch meter in our inventory. We go from 5/8, we jump up to 1 inch. We're proposing putting in a 3/4 inch meter with its fee that I showed in here, so that if somebody wants to make a small incremental jump, on this page right here, the one that says 3/4 inch meter existing fee, we actually don't have an existing fee for a 3/4 inch meter. We don't, because we don't have that size. But right now, under the existing fees, a residential unit would pay $44.73 for the water and wastewater capacity fees, and if they needed a bigger meter, they would jump up to the 1 inch, which is $11,000, which is a sizable jump. So we're proposing to bring in 3/4 inch meters into the inventory, and you can see that their fee would jump from, say, $4,500 up to $6,800. Okay, so.
I'm just kind of giggling because I'd be like, oh, forget it. If that was me and you said that, well, it's going to be $11,000 some dollars, I'd be like, I'll just stick with the smaller fee and we just won't use much water. That's all there is to it. No.
Right.
Good. Mike, did you have a question? I heard you say something.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. One was just to I guess, better understand the water resource fee. What's the difference between that and the wastewater and
The water resource fee, essentially, we charge that to anybody that's coming in, any new home that's coming in, any new business, and it's to actually provide us with money to go out and get new water sources. So this is money that John Munderloh spends on recharge projects, on acquiring water rights and those sorts of things. So that's for John Munderloh. I get the water capacity fees, which help to upsize pipes and pumps and tanks and wells and stuff. So that's what the difference is.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure on that. The other was, we mentioned like 60 some odd new homes, I think you said between 2015 and I forget the projected year. You had a number of homes that you projected as well that kind of quantified the need for what we do in the future. Can you give me a better idea what those numbers were? Are they just proposed numbers, or are we actually looking at homes that are
the number that you were referring to? I think it's about 6,700 homes.
67, right.
There are projections that show what our population is going to be doing here in the next 10 years. And in fact, I believe those numbers also were the same numbers that were used in the development impact fee study, so that we could stay consistent with what projections were being used in Prescott Valley for what our growth was going to look like.
Right. Okay. Because I wasn't sure, and we had that at the beginning, so I just thought I'd look, try to confirm.
I think Larry has a comment.
I don't know that took into account 100 inches of snow in Boston.
No.
Steve, you had a comment? No?
Well, I had one more question.
And
that was, is there a feeling that you have, or maybe what's happening in Phoenix, that this is readily acceptable among the developers and builders, that this is a fair, because I think it's a fair approach, and I'm just kind of wondering what the reaction usually is when changes like this are made.
Well, and the reason that John provided that information on that chart was to show that we're not, going out on a limb and doing something that nobody else is doing.
Right.
Essentially, it's not going to change for the residential communities. They're still going to be putting in, most of them, the 5/8 inch meter. Nothing's going to change. So really, it's only on more of the commercial type projects, and they're used to doing it all kinds of different ways, however it needs to get done. Essentially, we're doing it the same way that others are doing it. So it's not anything new. If somebody hasn't done business with us before, they won't even go, well, hey, you used to do it this way, So.
Well, I think it's very fair, and I think it's more efficient for sure. It cuts down on trying to determine, as you're saying, the number of fixtures and things like that. So I think it's probably something that will help us obviously do our job much better and much easier. So I appreciate that. But I just want to say I think it's a fair approach. So
let's take Laura first.
Obviously, we always have to update and revisit our rates. And the slide that showed us all of the other communities that are using the meter as the benchmark is a logical move. And I see it as you pointed out with the situation with Greg, for economic development, to be able to say meter size so that they know what those costs are is a benefit to economic development all the way around. And maybe it's an unintended consequence, but it's a very good positive consequence. And I agree with Michael. There were things about it that were startling me, but as when I was processing, I realized this is very fair.
Good.
It's very fair. And that's what you hear in this world, Well, that's not fair. So let's get that word out there. This is well thought out, carefully looked at, with a lot of data input, and it is fair.
Larry?
Yeah, just a comment that this really is about economic development, making it easier for the developers to come in and do their own assessment and projections on costs as it relates to commercial projects, and just make it very simple. Now, I was wondering if perhaps Rick Anderson, seeing that we're talking about meters, that maybe we should look at an update on radio read meters and looking at that at some point in time.
Sure, I'll be happy to give an update on radio read meters anytime you want.
Sometime in the future.
Rick, you had a comment? No. Any other, anyone else? It's moving on, isn't it, Neil?
So it sounds like that you would like us to move forward with coming back to you with the proposals and such based on this methodology and the rates that you've seen here?
I think so. Larry?
But just a comment, Mayor and Council, we've had outstanding response and work from our consultant, and we appreciate you coming down to be here this evening to help explain all of this, and a great deal of work on Neil and his staff's part, and they've done a really good job of making this understandable and streamlining it, and so hats off to them.
Larry, I heard you coming. They stopped their comments. A minute. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I think the council is agreeable to you bringing it back.
Thank you.
That's a good explanation, and your work, your sheets, or the documentation you provided was outstanding on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Okay, we move on then to town website update. Casey, and I don't know if Ryan is involved.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. You may recall on September 11th of the previous year, you approved staff to go ahead and go forward with the purchase of a website through Civic Plus. And at that time, staff went ahead and contacted Civic Plus to get started on the project. I formed a team shortly thereafter of 6 people: myself, Ryan Judy, Larry Prentice, who's here, Heidi Foster, who's here, Shelley Geiger, Brian Whitty, and at the time Art Askew was very instrumental in the team, and then Scott Stebbins has kind of taken over since then. So that is the team. And the team basically met. We started meeting, started talking to the vendor about how we could make things easier for both our citizens as well as our staff when it comes to the website and what's being presented on the website. So the team has been very helpful. We've been working with Civic Plus for the last 3 months really hard on the particular project, and I wanted to take a few minutes basically to give you a glimpse of what we've got. I want you to be aware that there's still issues with the site that we're working through with the vendor. The vendor's been working very hard to take care of the issues as we see them. And as things pop up, we're telling them, hey, this is happening, and they're getting right on it. And so I hope to very soon be able to have Heidi give an announcement that we're going to be going live shortly thereafter. So I wanted to give you a glimpse today of the website. And before I do that, I want to look back at our current website. I think it's always good to look at what we have to see where we're going. And so this is our website currently. Obviously, you guys have been to it many times. It's served us very well over the past 8 years, I think. It's been a good design. I even get comments even now that we have a good design on our current site, which is nice to hear. One of the issues that I think most people would echo is that it's still a little bit difficult at times to find information on the current website. As nice as it is, we have this menu-driven system where you're basically going menu within menu trying to find what it is that you're looking for. We have a search feature. It works, but it may not be completely ideal. So those are some of the things that we've been looking at. How do we organize things to make it easier for our citizens? How do we make it, I think, simpler in a lot of ways for a website is kind of the new norm and something that we were really excited about looking into. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and without further ado, introduce you to our new website. Again, still somewhat in its infancy, but it's moving along very well. So this is our site at this point. As you can see, it's a lot simpler. There's not near as much going on as there was on the old website. We've done this on purpose. We've basically gone out and looked at a lot of other sites that have gotten a lot of good reviews. As you can see, the background is taking up a large, it's taking center stage, so to speak. And we've been talking to individuals who in the area take photographs that have done some tremendous photography of the area, and we've been able to procure some photographs from them. And we'll be, as the seasons change, changing these backgrounds out a lot. So we'll always have some fresh content for people to look at. So I'm just going to kind of take you through some of the things on the site here, and then I'm going to show you the back end of the system a little bit that staff will see, and some of the modules that we have with a new website that are new, that I know some of you, Councilwoman Marshall, would be really excited about one of them. I'll take you through some of those. So as we go through the site here, as you'll notice, we've got basically, again, we just have the four headings. We tried to be very specific. We have your government, our community, town services, and Discover PV to really hit everybody that might be out there looking at our website, whether it's a citizen that already knows the area and can go to our community and look around, or whether it's somebody, a business, or somebody that's thinking about moving here. They can look at the Discover PV section and get some good information there. And then we finally have a How Do I section, which I think is much easier to navigate than it used to be, and there's going to be a lot more information there for people. As I go through that, you may have noticed that the menus are somewhat different than they used to be. There's no more going into a menu to find another menu to find another menu. These are what's called mega menus. These are very popular now. These allow somebody to basically go to that area and you can look down in here what you're looking for and see it all right here. It's all presented for you. It's a whole menu of the options that you have to choose. There's nothing hidden. There's no menus to go inside those menus. So I think that's going to be great for our citizens. We have in the past had feedback saying, it's a little hard to find stuff. I have to go into too many menus to find stuff. So this is a big thing that we are looking at. So as you can see, your government, again, these are some of the things we're working through with menus staying there. But as you can see, we're trying to put things in here that are more specific to the governmental operation, whether it be the boards and commissions, town council, your departments. We have our financial reports and budget all in one area, which is something that we've also been told. Our finance director has been told that you need to have these things in the same area, very easy to find for people. We've got our town code, water resources, so all of those things that people would think about when they think about government. Next, as you can see, is our community. I wish I could get this to go away. So for our community, as you can see, we have headings for things that citizens of the community are going to find important, whether that be parks and recreation, housing, a new residents guide where we have a lot of information for new residents, volunteer activities, volunteer opportunities for people, library, Channel 9, events planning. And this is going to be a constant growing process, so as we see things that should be under there, we're going to be moving them under there. Next would be town services, where you're going to find things like community development, court services, police services, residential services, business services, which would be things like contracts and bids and business licenses, those kind of things. Financial services, where again you'll find financial reports, but you'll also find transaction privilege tax information, special assessments, things like that. and then Public Works. So I hope you can see that we're trying to organize things a lot better than they have been in the past, a lot easier for people to find the information they're looking for. And then, as I said, Discover PV, we're going to have things in here about Prescott Valley, whether it be our mission statement, our history, our natural environment, things to do, where we're going to have Parks and Rec, things about the event center, ice skating, all of those kind of things about what there is to do in Prescott Valley. And then a visitor guide, which will show a business directory, which I'm going to show you in a minute, library, our Prescott Valley video that we have, Chamber of Commerce, things like that. So just an area where prospective residents and businesses can find a lot of information. And then the How Do I section, much like what we have now, but we've tried to put things more in line with what they are, which you can apply for things, you can watch things, view things, report things, sign up for things, volunteer for things. But it's all right there, which I think is the most important thing. There's no more going around looking for what you're trying to find. It's kind of all in headings and subheadings, so I think it'll be a lot easier for people. As you can see at the top here, we have our social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and this is going to be Flickr, which will have a town photo gallery. This will also be the place where you see this little camera icon right here. This is going to allow citizens to submit a photo that maybe they have taken and they'd like to see on the website. And so that'll submit it to a Flickr account, and we'll be able to go through there, talk to them about getting their credits on the photo, and then use it as a background potentially in our next go around of backgrounds. So I'm very excited about that, as I think the team is as well. These two icons you'll see are being used a lot, and they are for all of your functions such as printing, RSS feeds, contact us, notifications, documents, all those quick things that people need to be able to get to. And the next one is basically a social media sharing button, which people can share our website to all of their social media accounts that they might want to. So I think that's a good one right there, and I'm not sure why that's staying up. Again, things we're working through. As we go down lower in the page, this right here on the left side is going to be a news flash area where we'll be able to put up to, I believe, 8 different news items with a picture that we can really introduce some events and things that we're doing. People will be able to scroll through here and see different things that are going on with the town. So that's pretty exciting, and they can click on read more, and it'll basically take them to the page that talks about that particular item. And as you can see, we have put over here a few of the more important things, some of those things that we think the citizens would like to use, would be able to want to get to quickly, such as volunteering and jobs. E-services basically is going to be a page where they can find pretty much anything about how to do business with the town, to reserve things through parks, those kinds of things. Our calendar, town calendar, where they'll be able to sign up for any number of calendars that we have, much like they do now. That'll get them there. Our GIS maps, we tried to get rid of GIS maps, but Larry wouldn't have it, so we're always joking around with him about that. Our town meetings, which will go to our agenda page, where people can view the town meeting agendas, minutes, and videos. And then report an issue, which this has been a system that every time we have the Citizens Academy, I try to hype it up. It's that if you have a pothole, if you see something at a park, you need to report it, go ahead and use the system. Our current system is a little, it's kind of lacking on the features. It's a little hard to use. I want to show you in just a minute the module that Civic Plus has that we would like to use. It's, I think, going to revolutionize what we do as far as request tracking and the options that we can give citizens as far as reporting things to us. We've got a little weather widget down here for people who want to check the weather, which is always a popular thing. You'll notice right here we have a staff login. We're actually going to be using the Civic Plus system for our intranet, which I'm very excited about. We've been using the same intranet system for probably about 12 years, almost as long as I've been here. And I'm still using the same software to update it. That's how old it is. And this was front page 2003, I think, which will tell you how old the software is. So I'm very excited about the intranet, and I'm going to show you just a screenshot of what the front page of that's going to look like in just a second here. One thing that I wanted to talk about for a quick sec is another great new feature that we're getting through the design, which is called our department header pages. With this purchase, they gave us, basically, because these usually cost about $3,000 a piece, they gave us a couple department headers, which is something where they'll go and design a certain page or certain department's page different. It'll share the same design structure as the front page, but they can change the backgrounds. They can change the buttons to be specific to their department. And so we did that with the police department and the parks department, and then I also did it for the intranet. So I want to show you those real quickly. If we go to Parks and Recreation, you'll see that the buttons, you'll notice, are a different color. They have some different features on them. Register online, rentals, things that are very specific to Parks and Rec. And Brian Whitty was obviously instrumental in getting this chosen. He's going to be able to put in special, whatever Parks news flashes that he wants to do that will be different than what the town has. As you can see, the picture is different. We've chosen 5 different backgrounds at this time for Parks. So if you refresh through these, it should usually take you to a different picture. And so we have one of baseball being played and some different stuff like that. So, and as you can see up here, they have different things about us, parks and facilities, programs and events, and sports and athletics, things that are very specific to Parks and Rec. I'm going to minimize this for just a second just so I can show you the police page. It's not on the regular site yet, but this is the design that we're looking at for the police. And this, again, was done with the very valuable input of police representatives. So you see this is different here. They've put this phrase on here. They've got different options here for their menus. Obviously different backgrounds that we'll be scrolling that are very specific to the police department. And they've got their badge logo and police up here. So again, very specific to the police department. And then finally, we have the intranet page, and this is something I worked on because these are things that I see as things that staff is very interested in, things that we use all the time. So when you come to this page, again, it looks similar, but instead of the 1 box over here and 6 over here, I've done 9 because these are things that, to me, are very important to us, and so we're just going to use that. We have news, calendar, our wellness information, safety committee, which is very important, has stuff out there, our bulletin board, anything for new employees. And then up here, you see our most important sections are information about our departments, staff directory, which is important for new employees to get to know others and be able to pull up information about other employees. We've got benefits, and then our policies and procedures. So really excited about that. Down here on the bottom, we have links to some of our systems that people can get to from the outside, whether it be our web email or our help desk system, our timekeeping system, things like that. So I'm really excited about that. We're doing it in conjunction, so it may be a little later than the regular website, but not too far behind. So I want to hit I don't want to keep you here too long, but I wanted to hit the back end of this system just a little bit and kind of talk about modules for just a second. I'll sign in here. So this is the back end of the system. We had training already where we trained most of our people that do our web editing right now. And to a person, they were very excited about the system. It seemed very easy to use for them compared to the system we have. There were far less bugs that we run into because of the internet browsers we're using and things like that. So very excited about that. The modules section, there's a ton of modules that we're able to use in this system, and I just wanted to kind of hit on a few of them. First, you see Agenda Center up here. Basically, Agenda Center is a place where instead of the way that we do boards and commissions now, which is basically when they update their pages, they basically have to upload their PDF files for their minutes and agendas for the next meeting. They have to go ahead and put them on the website and everything. This Agenda Center is going to let those boards and commissions that don't work through our Granicus system, which is what we use for the main council meetings and agendas, they'll be able to use this Agenda Center that's built into this to the website, and the people that have used it so far love it. So it's going to make their lives a lot easier for updating agendas and minutes for their boards. Bid postings you'll see right here. I think our capital projects coordinator is going to be very excited about that. It's basically a module that's going to allow us to do bid postings on the website, put in any information we want, the dates that are required for their bid meetings and such. I was going to pull up Charleston, South Carolina here, this is their bid page, as you can see. Basically, they've got the bids out here, the status of it, when it closes, and it'll actually list the bids. People will be able to put in their bid packets from here and everything. So I think it's a great module that's going to be very helpful to our bid process in the future. Next, we have the Community Voice. This is what Councilmember Marshall is very excited about. Community Voice is a module that's going to allow us to, basically we can put things out there on a kind of community forum, so to speak, things that we may be thinking of doing, things that are, maybe out there for opinion, and it's going to allow people to post things out that we can obviously regulate somewhat. We don't want to have certain things out there, but it's going to allow people to put their opinions out there. We can take votes on things, stuff like that. I wanted to show you an example of that, which is Joplin, Missouri is using it. They call it Joplin's Voice. So basically they explain what it is up here. It's an open forum to submit ideas and engage in discussions. So you'll see there's initiatives here, idea for the use of Memorial Hall. You can expand that to get more information about it. And then, as you can see, there's a little bit of discussion there and people that are involved in the discussion. So kind of still fleshing out how we can use that best, and we'll be getting with you guys probably on some of that as well to see how we can use it properly. But I think it'll be a great thing for us to get our citizens really involved in what we're doing. So back to our modules, we next have FAQs, frequently asked questions. This is a great module because it allows us to put in frequently asked questions for each department that are very specific to them, and then these feed wherever else you want to put them on the website. It's basically a little widget that you drag and drop anywhere on the website, and it's like on the police page, let's say they have some frequently asked questions, they can drag and drop that to any page they want to on their pages, and it's going to be right there for citizens to be able to see that. Montrose, Colorado is using this. As you can see, they have animal control, animal services, golf course questions. So basically anything you can think of, any department that you can think of, that you can put in frequently asked questions and then tie them to other areas of the website. So pretty excited about that as well. And that's what I really like about this new system we have, is that things are very widget driven, they're very list driven. So instead of having to change things in 10 different places, we can change things in one place and then it goes out to where it's supposed to go. So it's going to save a lot of time for staff. We've got Notify Me, which is basically like what we currently have, where people will be able to sign up for notifications for news, for calendar items that may come across, things like that. So we've got a photo gallery now, which we've never had before. I'm very excited about that because now we can put our Citizens Academy photos in one area. We can put parks photos, police photos. Fontana, California is a place that's using it very nicely here. As you can see, they've got where you can just select an item right here and just go to that and see all the pictures here. We can add information, captions for the pictures. So I think that'll be great to really highlight a lot of the events that we're doing. We've got Request Tracker. That's the next thing I wanted to show you. Really excited about the potential for Request Tracker. As I said, we currently have a system that's a little hard to use. There's not a whole lot of options for it. Request Tracker, you can do anything in it. You can create forms. You can, again, just like the FAQ section, you can put them for whatever departments you want. I want to show you League City, Texas. They're using their Citizen Request Tracker, as you can see, for general services, animal control, the building department, code enforcement. It's all right here in one area for people to go to. They don't have to go to a system and then start clicking arrows around trying to find what they're looking for. Basically, we put whatever they might need in here. So let's say it's a code violation sign here. When you click on this, I'm hoping I don't have to sign in. I can do anonymous. But basically, they'll bring up a nice form, very nice looking, give a brief description, give the information. You can add a photograph now very easily, which hasn't been the easiest thing to do on our current system. And then give the information for contact, preferred contact, and submit it. And it's going to go to, this is built in, it's going to be working with our user structure. So basically, if that's supposed to go to a certain person, like somebody wants a GIS map request and it's supposed to go to Larry, it's going to go to Larry. He's going to be able to deal with it and add status for them to be able to look at and get back to that person very easily. I think people, once they see this, they start to use it. They see the options that are available to them. They're going to use it a lot more than what our current system gets used. So again, I'm really excited about that module. We have a resource directory that we have begun to populate. I think we almost have it done. But this is basically, instead of going to certain pages to go look for resources about schools, the different schools that are in the area, or the utility companies, things like that, the resource directory is going to allow people to go to one place, look under different categories to find what they're looking for. Burnett County, as you can see, they have a ton of different information, a lot of information here. You can sort by category. As you can see, they've got tons of cheese producer, computers, technology, all kinds of stuff here. So you could choose that category and do a search of everything you're looking for. And they have information, obviously, here for a phone number, address, information about that particular item. So I think this would be a great benefit to us to be able to put all of our resources in one area. And then finally, staff directory is much like resource directory, except that we've populated that with staff information. Whereas community development may want to list all their employees there because maybe they want to put different people for code enforcement or admin, things like that. Or maybe IT only has me because I'm the one that people will be contacting. We've got the full staff directory there, and that will again populate where we need it to populate. So very easy to use on these. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. Again, it's a work in progress. We're hoping to complete it very soon. We're working through issues feverishly, and the vendor has been doing a great job working with us. So at this time, I would welcome any questions about the new site that you might have.
First, I wanted to say I think it looks awesome. I think it looks really cool, and everything seems to work really well. But one question that I have is this URL, is that going to be changed to pvaz.net?
Exactly, yeah. That, for right now, that's just the server that we're on at their location. Once we go live, we'll be making that the normal website address.
Awesome. The other thing I didn't see that I think might be a good idea for the front page is a pay my bill link, so people can pay their water bill from the front page. Maybe I'm just missing it.
Yes, that was one of those things that we talked about, and I think we kind of centered on e-services just because it's one of those e-services, and we didn't know if we should single it out more than maybe some of the other payment items that we have. That's definitely something we can look at if we see that it's starting to get a little bit not used.
Well, that works. I didn't see it there, so that works perfectly.
Marty?
Yeah, I have a question. For the sections where there's going to be community input, are there going to be any filters so that they're to avoid or prevent in some way personal attacks or foul language?
Sure, yeah. I've got to be real honest with you because we've been working so hard on the design and everything. I haven't gotten into that module completely yet to know exactly how it's done, but I have talked to them and they have assured me that yes, those are things that we can set up as far as filters for language and whatever else we need to. And we can definitely, I believe, before anything goes on there, I think it comes to us to
Yeah, that's usually a good idea based on some of the blogs that you see around. So yeah, no, that's great. It looks good. I like it. Are we going to lose Terry Bradshaw's little film, or is that going to be kept?
Definitely not. And what we're thinking of doing actually is on our internal pages. You see this area over here. I believe we've talked about potentially putting it there so that it's always there for people to look at. And we've definitely got it under Discover PV right here with the Prescott Valley Video, but we want to definitely highlight that, and we'll be figuring out how best to do that.
Laura?
When you get to the window you're seeking for information, I noticed that they weren't alphabetic, they were very random. Most of us think alphabetically, so...
Yes, I agree with you. I think alphabetically as well, and that's one of those discussions we've had, and it kind of went between, like, for your government, for example, let's take that. It was more about what we felt that people were going to gravitated most towards, and that's why town council is up here. Found that very important for people to have that information, our boards and commissions, departments, and so that's part of the reason why we're not doing it alphabetical, is that we're just trying to figure out where the eye is going to go and what people might be looking for.
Well, you already have a feel for the most opened windows, so totally trust you.
And that is another good point that you bring up, is that the analytics for our website are much better than they used to be. So I'm going to be able to provide a lot more information about who's coming, how many people are coming to the site, the views that we're getting, things like that.
Mary?
I think it's fabulous. I love the whole thing. I love the community voice. I think that is great. So, yeah, it looks really easy to use, and sometimes when I'm out and about and people are asking me something, I'll try to go ahead and get onto the website that we have now, and I struggle in finding my way around that thing. So this is going to be really easy.
And you just brought up a segue to another thing that I forgot to talk about, which is a very, very important part of the new website, and it's called responsive design. Most websites up to this point are such that if you try to view them on a phone, very difficult, as you just talked about, because you can only see part of what you're looking at and everything. So responsive design is, I'm going to show you here, a system where, as you can see, you see that it's one way when it's this size, but depending on what type of screen you're on, or if you're on a phone or something like that, as it gets smaller, you see how the things start to rotate around and move around. Okay, so things go on top of each other instead of side to side. So if we get down to responsive design is a very difficult thing for programmers, it seems, to work with, and so we're still working on some issues with this, but if you were to get down to a cell phone size, as you can see, things are all stacked on top of each other, and this is one of those things that we're still working on. The pictures are overlapping on top of each other, but as you can see, though, things are on top of each other while you still are able to get the things that you need to look at, and especially for a phone situation, which so many people are using now, they're going to still be able to get to those things that we want them to be able to get to. So thank you for bringing that up.
That's cool. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I just had one question about the videos and especially the council videos. I know that's taken off the Grancius, or however you pronounce it.
Right.
And I know we'll be upgrading our way of tapping into our screens
Right.
that we normally do. And I've noticed in the past that that system is not necessarily compatible when you try to view it on a computer or what have you, or run the video. So I'm wondering, how is that going to change at all?
Well, unfortunately, Granicus is still a third party. It's not really on our website. They change their colors and things like that to match our website, which they're going to do for this as well. But we're still kind of limited based on what Granicus can do. One thing I would like to tell you, though, is that with the changes that you mentioned for Granicus, we'll be installing a new version and things like that, which I hope to relieve some of those issues that we're having. And again, that they'll work much better with the iPads and mobile devices.
So you'll just tap into whatever's available through that system.
Exactly, right. Okay. Granicus will be used the same way as far as the website is concerned. We're basically just tapping into Granicus.com on our personal site there. So.
Rick?
Well, I think it's great. I'm just looking forward to it. I think it looks fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
People think it's fabulous. Casey? Ryan?
I just want to compliment Casey real quick. He has done a good job. He has really driven this vendor, has not cut them any slack, and they've been very responsive to him, and all for about half of the price of what they initially proposed to us. So I think we're doing well. Hats off to Casey.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Casey and Ryan. Larry, good to see you. Okay, we move on to number 7, Town's News Sponsorship. Heidi?
Casey did a great job, but he missed my surprise.
Can I pull the gizmo down a little bit, Heidi?
Pardon?
Yeah, pull the microphone down a little bit.
I'm not loud enough?
There you go.
I try to stay away from these things.
I know you're
Did you miss
microphone
my
shy.
Yeah, I put a dog picture on there for him, but he missed it. Well, we're here tonight. I'm going to pass out a thing real quick to you. If you could just take the top two and pass them on. We've had some, I'll only need about an hour. I hope that's okay. Not really. We've had some staff discussion about, just a little background. Town News used to be printed in color and on a little bit different paper. And we've had some staff discussions about bringing that back in color now that, we're a little bit past the recession. Not that we want to spend a lot more money. However, we've had some talk about having sponsorships for the Town News. And that would allow somebody that wanted to sponsor it to be able to go into 19,000 homes every month when we send out the Town News. And the charge for that would be enough to pay for printing the Town News in color. And so we kind of wanted to bring that to you tonight. What I've given you is a couple copies, an older one and one of our newer ones, so you can see what they look like in color. And the color copies are mailed to our e-notification list, but when we put them in the water bills right now, they go out black and white. So it's just a lot more eye-catching. It's a very nice thing, but it's also a way for our community businesses or even nonprofits to get their word out to a lot of homes. And so we wanted to bring that before you tonight, and just wanted to ask if you had any questions about that. I did do a little bit of financial research here, and so currently printed, folded, and inserted at CDS, which is the company we use, we pay $680 a month to have that printed and folded and inserted. Right now we have 19,420 utility billing customers, with 2,740 of them e-notifications. So we would need about 17,000 copies, give or take, each month. So I got a quote today. CDS is unable to print these in color here, so we would need to go out to an outside printer. And so I got a quote today. We can look around for some other quotes as well. But printing and folding of 20,000 copies would be about $1,297 a month. And so a sponsor, if we had one per newsletter, would pay about $1,300 a month. But that's getting your ad into 19,000 homes. We also kind of looked at the fact that some media companies might want to trade out for advertising. So if they did some advertising such as for Parks and Rec, then Parks and Rec would just pay that money back to us out of their budget to pay for the printing in color. And so it's really a nice thing because it's a way also to not only provide somebody with a great advertising opportunity that just shows their community support. I almost prefer to call it sponsorship rather than advertising. But it kind of shows their community support, gets it into a lot of homes, and offers our customers a better product, a more eye-catching product as well.
The Mayor and Council, what we were talking about was perhaps a banner at the bottom of the first and perhaps second page that would be, a couple inches, something smaller than this one that's showing GIS. It would be a quarter of that, yeah. And just have a banner along the bottom, and also we would end up needing to work with any of the vendors that would be interested in doing this to make sure that they're not advertising next Wednesday's movie, for example. What this is to advertise their company rather than something like movies this Saturday are going to be X, Y, and Z. And use it as an opportunity, very similar to what I've seen, I believe it was City of Goodyear, in their leisure news. They had a number of advertisers in it, but their leisure news was absolutely fantastic. The thing was all in color. It was a very large magazine type thing. They're very expensive, by the way, and I'm sure that they offset those costs through those sponsors.
Did the GIS thing come out of the GIS budget? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, any other questions? Marty?
Yeah, I just got okay, it's maybe a little crazy and out there, but I'll ask it anyway.
But that's a New York thing, right? I can say that.
Yeah, any business that puts their banner there, it's going to be worded in such a way that it doesn't look like the council or town is endorsing that business and everybody should go there. In other words, it's going to say, printing of this was paid for by so-and-so, correct?
Yeah, we could either say sponsored by such and such a business, or we could put underneath it, advertisement. We could find a way to do that so that people would know that was an advertisement. And plus, I think it'll speak for itself a little bit too as well. So. And I'm kind of proposing an inch banner on the bottom of each side, but it's possible that if we get sponsors who say $1,300 is too much, we might put one on the front and a different one on the back. So that's also a possibility.
And what we're asking is, should Heidi continue to explore this as a possibility? And we're just looking to get a read from you this evening to see if this is something that you're interested in or not.
Mary?
I was just going to ask, I think you just answered it though, but it would, more than one sponsor could possibly do a letter, then I'm guessing. And that would, if someone thought it was too much for $1,300, and if two people wanted to go halves and get their business sponsored and then do the letter, it could be more than one sponsor.
Steve, what do you think? You want to comment? Mike, your thoughts?
No, I like the idea. I think we ought to move forward at least to investigate more, get a little more information to see what the options might be. And I think the only worry is, the cost. So if we can cover that through sponsorships, I think that'd be it.
Right, and I have a proposal too that, in the next year I wanted to try and get as many more e-notification people signed up as possible, which always saves us money. And that always is in color. So that's something that we'll always work toward.
Laura, your thoughts?
Well, I've seen a lot of other communities' communications, as Larry indicated, and we're way behind the curve on this. So I support all of this effort and exploration.
Well, the exciting thing about this is that if we do get a sponsor who will sponsor the entire, one or two sponsors, the entire issue each month, we're looking at saving $8,000 a year, and that's substantial. So.
Well, and the overall idea here is to improve the quality of the information we're getting out.
Rick, your thoughts?
Well, I support looking into it further. I'd just like to have as much information available as possible, because I'd hate to see us get about 4.5 months into this and all of a sudden can't find a sponsor and have to back off from it and start printing them in black and white again because it fell apart. So I'd like to see some measure of possible success. So I do support your looking into this further.
Okay. I would hope that we might find a sponsor who might agree to sponsor for 6 months or a year at a time. Okay.
Marty, your thoughts?
I agree with the other council members that, you know, we could continue looking into it. To me, it sounds like a good idea, but again, if, you know, it would look, I think we would look a little foolish if we had 1 month in color, 1 month in black and white, and, you know, and it, you know, so it's something that needs to be looked into, and the feasibility of it, and hopefully it'll work out, and some of these sponsors will get some good responses from, you know, good input from it, from the community, and, you know, it'll work out for everybody's benefit.
Okay.
Good.
Right,
Any other
we'll
comments, Larry?
Yeah, just as a note, we only needed to find 12 sponsors because there's only 12 editions of this. In fact, the discussion that we had, or that I had with the legal department, was a fear that there would be more demand than there are advertising opportunities. Because when you take this will be price competitive with the local media in terms of rates per square inch, blah, blah, blah. The nice problem to have would be more demand than what there is space available, because we don't want to junk this up. We're only talking about a bottom banner on the front, maybe on the back as well. Same company is the goal. Only one sponsor per month is the goal. Okay, now, having said that, if we end up having a problem where there is more demand than there is space or opportunity, well, there's a real easy fix to that. Raise the price.
Other questions, comments?
Or we could print our own newspaper. I mean, you know.
No.
Larry won't let me do that.
Idea, I think the council generally thinks is a good idea, but get a little more information.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we move on to number 8, which everybody hates. Meeting is adjourned.